We are here again with legendary wide receiver Herman Moore to talk about the state of the Detroit Lions, how they're playing offense and defense, how the Lions can win versus the Denver Broncos on Saturday night in primetime. Herm, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I am, just coming down from being so high on this team, but I haven't given up. I will never change, never turn a different way. But it's a little deflating when they are sitting in such a prime position, and all of a sudden have it start to slip back just a little bit. It hasn't slipped away, so I'm still excited. I'm still enthusiastic about what they have. But I will say this: there's a lot that's got to happen in the next few weeks for them to get back on track, and there's still an opportunity for them to come out of this thing really really strong.
Absolutely, and it is deflating, and it's also deflating if people are watching this and not subscribed. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's make this thing fill up with full subscribers so you don't miss out on the latest Lions news, rumors from a fan perspective, as well as one of the greatest of all time in Herman Moore. Herm, you said it's deflating. When you're looking at this team, we'll start with offense. What are the struggles? What can be a remedy to get this offense back on that elite track and start to win games and really show their dominance on the field?
Well, one, they got to just score points. That's one. The other thing is they've got to get rid of the miscues. Right now, if you look at really the way the Lions are playing right now, it's not that there are things that can't be corrected. If there was a talent issue, that's one thing. Right now, I think there's some play calling that's out of sync. I think some of the players are out of sync. There's when you look at the plays themselves, a lot of the players uh, just they don't seem to be playing with the same type of fire that we've seen before. What has changed, I don't know, but I do know this: this is still a team that is capable. I would like to see them come through the last stretch, the last 4 or 5 games, a little bit stronger, a lot stronger, in fact, than what they've been. But to get back on track, they just have to correct the small thing, get back to the attention to detail, meaning, you know, get rid of the mistakes and the penalties. Got to eliminate the turnovers. That's been a big Achilles heel. That's been a big problem. And then the other thing is just when the opportunities are there and you see that you have things working, like for instance against Chicago, the running game is working. You don't need to abandon it. You don't need to all of a sudden. I mean, I remember when I played with a guy named Barry, and people don't want to hear about us talking about back in the day, but there are some things that with a system that just works. When if you're going to make a commitment to the run, commit to the run until the team stops you. Chicago did nothing to stop the Lions from running the football, and they got away from it at times when they perhaps shouldn't have. And they have to realize it's okay to just rinse and repeat until you force the other team into making changes. And then on the defensive side, Mike, there's some things they have to do there. But if we're sticking specifically right now with the offense, those are the things I would clean up. Get rid of the penalties. They've become killers, and really the turnovers.
Now you've played for a long time and on great teams. Is this normal to have a slump mid-season and you go through some turbulence and then but you right the track and continue going forward? Is that something that is kind of normal here, or is this a situation where, man, it's not looking too good? I don't know if you can get back on track.
I wouldn't say necessarily this is normal as much as it happens. You don't know when or where. Sometimes it happens in the beginning of the season. Sometimes it's in the middle. Sometimes at the end. Sometimes teams just it doesn't happen until you hit postseason. To be quite candid, but when you have things like this that will occur, it's how quickly can you adjust and get out of it. That's what you want to see with teams that are turning the corner. Right now, things like that are going to happen. You're going to have bad quarters. You're going to have bad halves. You may even have a bad game where it comes down to making a few plays at the end of the game to preserve or to propel yourself to a win. But you can't just stay in it and seem like the consistency is being in that inconsistent space and being in a space where it just does not look like you're the same team that you've been for so long. And they played well for a long time. They won some games that perhaps people think they should have lost. There are games that they faced some really tough opponents that didn't play particularly their best games. The Lions were able to benefit on that. Now you just have to win. You have to win by any means necessary. And right now, I don't know if this team realizes just really the commanding position. I'm pretty sure they do. I know the coaches do, but I don't know if the players. Sometimes the coaches aren't going to come with you on the field, so the players have to really drive in and say, you know what, if it's going to get done, we have to get it done as well.
You look at Jared Goff, in the last 4 games, he's turned the ball over 10 times. Uh, that seems quite a bit unacceptable. He knows it's unacceptable. What can be done for him to stop fumbling the football and throwing interceptions and hurting this team? That can he get this corrected?
There's something there. It looks like when I'm watching that's changed a little bit. There's a rhythm passing that it looks like he wants to do. Is a drop back 1, 2, 3, or if he's in a it's like a set step. It's like get the ball. There's a couple steps. Then it's like getting the ball out on a certain time. In doing that, there's an anticipation that seems like that in that cadence of progression of how he's trying to do and pass, like the defense, they've jumped on that. Like they're jumping on that first read. They're jumping wherever he looks, and they're not looking at it because the Lions don't do a lot of pump fakes. They don't do a lot of routes where they're doing double moves, and because of that, which is surprising given the offensive line that they have, teams are really now keying in on their jumping routes, and I think that's leading to some of the interceptions. Um, as far as mishandling the snap, that happens occasionally. You just want to kind of keep that down. It happens to every quarterback. It happens to every offensive system. It shouldn't occur, but it does. So they just got to protect the football. You can't let the ball end up on the ground, and you can't keep giving the opponent opportunities to make the game even more difficult, especially when you're having some offensive struggles.
I've been asked this question multiple times, and I'd love to hear it from one of the best of all time at wide receiver position. Is it Jameson Williams? Is he not getting open, or is he getting open? Jared Goff is not seeing him. What is going on here? Because it does feel like he is not being utilized enough in a game. He's got dynamic speed. He has been playing a lot of snaps. What is going on here with the JMO and Goff? Do you see anything that there's a problem that can get corrected?
You know what? I'm not in the room, so I'm not. I think in the best position to say why he's not getting the ball. But what I see, or that I would encourage anyone to look at when you have a talent like that that you're trying to bring on is how do we get him the football? How do we make it so that he is an integral part of the offense to where we can utilize his speed, not just in clearing out routes and making it so underneath routes or secondary routes can come open, but how do we make sure he's a primary target? How do we get him the ball quickly in his hands with space, not the bubble screen, not some of these sit routes, but where we keep him on the move, where he's getting up into the zones a lot faster, force teams to get into man situations where you can take the deep shots. But I don't think that right now it's being game planned around him. He's a part, and I mentioned this in an article I posted earlier this week. Sometimes if you bring a player and you just fit them into the system and you just say, hey, here's a route that you're running within our system, it doesn't work. You have to adjust the system so that it fits taking advantage of the opportunity that you have with those particular players. And if you can do that, then it's a much more effective way to use the player, plus have that player execute your system better than when you just say, hey, here's a play, here's where you're supposed to be on this route, and you run it. And it's regardless of whoever the player is. And that's not going to make him a better player, nor is it going to extract the talents I think that he possesses.
Before we move over to the defense, do you think that this offense can get back on track to what it was?
Um, uh, it can. It's going to take, in my opinion, them coming together. And I, again, one of those things I say you make a compromise, right? If the running game is going, the receivers in the passing game is going to have to take a back seat. But when it's ready, it has to be productive. It has to make things happen. If it's going to be a blended offense, then there needs to be a great sequence in which those plays are used and called. Now, Ben Johnson, I'm never going to question the play calling or the sequence in which he does it because I'm not scouting the opponent like he is. But I will say this: there's got to be a way where you just become the command in terms of the offense. And you go out and you attack, and you make teams have to adjust to what you're doing versus trying to figure out how to beat whatever it is they're putting in front of you.
Defensively, we're struggling. We can't get to the quarterback. The blitzes are not working. Is it is it able to be fixed, this defense, while this season is taking place? Do you think that we can get some pass rush, or is this more of an issue where we may not have the talents and the injuries are just too much?
I think there's a combination of injuries, but I think that right now trying to get them to be able to move forward and do some things defensively in terms of correcting things, that's going to take a little bit more. time. I don't think they can get that necessarily all fixed, during the course of this season. Some people may say, "Hey, nothing's broken. We just got to be more sound in our assignment." While that's true, there are teams that are just going to be more talented offensively than you're going to be able to handle defensively. So how do you manage that and not put your offense in such a deficit or put them in a hole to where they have to score every single possession or most possessions to just be competitive? The defense right now, I don't think they lack necessarily talent overall as much as there's just got to be more plays being made, and they can't be. The defense plays well when momentum and things are working in their favor. They've got to dig themselves out of ditches. They got to dig themselves out of times when they're not playing as well, and it's got to be corrected a lot faster than what they're doing right now.
When I look at this defense, I kind of think that Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator, is stubborn. This is my personal opinion. Can you continue to see Jerry Jacobs on number ones? And if you watch Jerry Jacobs, he is clearly not a number one cornerback. He's a good depth piece, but going against the Keenan Allens of the world and these players that's making giant plays is a big deficit to the reason why we're getting destroyed in the secondary. Is there anything that could be done to fix, at least to help out Jerry Jacobs? Can Aaron Glenn do something to change course in this?
Well, you have to have a defense starting from the defensive line, the edge rushers to the linebackers that can dial up blitz packages. Also, do some disguised blitz where you're bringing guys down from the secondary, even if you know you're in a predictable man situation. But if you're going to go man on the outside, the pressure's got to get to the quarterback. That's just fact. That's just bottom line. If the pressure doesn't get there, you don't have enough talent in the secondary to cover guys. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a Keenan Allen. It doesn't have to be a top tier number one wide receiver. This is going to be tough to cover anyone if you can't get to the quarterback and put pressure on. Giving pressure on the outside edge and then having them have the ability to step up or and then step to the side and find guys doesn't help. Uh, right now, there's a little bit of a gap and a problem, I think, defensively that doesn't allow them to be as effective a defense because they can't play certain coverages across the board. They can't go into man coverage whenever they want to go into man. They're forced into it because they fall behind and they have to bring more pressure. So it's not a flexible defense right now, and that's making them more predictable.
When you look at the Lions versus Denver Broncos here on Saturday, what's the key matchups you're looking at? What do you want to see from this football team?
I really want to see the Lions come out and play disciplined football. I'm just going to start there because if they do that, I think it'll take care of itself. You know, if the Lions come out, I think in with the tenacity that we've seen early in the season, that will help solve some of their problems in terms of falling behind. They play a little bit differently when they play with energy. I see them falling behind to Denver if they allow Russell Wilson, if they allow the defense to start to apply pressure or get turnovers early. This is going to be an ugly game because the momentum and the confidence it seems to have dipped just a little bit. They may not admit it, but anyone who's watching this team, anyone who's watching, they're starting to see there's a little doubt that seems to start to creep in a little bit, and it doesn't have to be spoken. It's all in body language sometimes. And while coaches and the organization itself may not hear it, some of that can definitely be seen in the body language of some of the players.
And actually, the players spoke on it. They've lost confidence. John Kaminsky talked about it. Jerry Jacobs talked about it. To me, that's very concerning when you're open about that. And I'm not sure, how that's going to get better for them. I really don't know. I'm concerned about the defense. Who wins this game on Sunday and why, or Saturday and why?
I think this is going to be one of those games that Denver is playing with a lot of confidence. Unfortunately, I think this may be a game that Denver, kind of pulls out. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I don't think Denver's this juggernaut or this team that the Lions shouldn't or can't be. I just have some concerns, and I didn't come away from Chicago feeling like all those things are going to be corrected. And you're facing a team, in my opinion, that's going to be better than Chicago, and playing a little bit differently at a level than Chicago was playing. Even though they're at home, I give them as being the opportunity for this team, but I don't think it's going to take a lot to shake their confidence right now. So unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to pull out a victory here.
Appreciate talking to you, Herman. Loved it. Had a great time here. Hopefully, the Lions get a win. Just hopefully, that'd be really nice. Get to 10 wins. Try to win the NFC North for the first time ever. You won division, but it wasn't the NFC North, and it's time for us to win the division at some point, right? At some point, we got to win this thing. So appreciate talking to you. Why should people like this video?
I wanted to like this video because we're bringing that in-depth content, and we're also continuing to bring knowledge to this and making sure people understand exactly what we do here at Lions Nation, being led by you, Mike. And you know what? It's just beautiful content. Come on and join us. That's why they need to like it.
It'll make us all fuzzy and warm inside.
That's
With
it.
that said, folks, adios.